Hey everybody, I am Stacy with New Creations by Stacy. I'm just going to give it a second to make sure that I'm live. I don't always go live the first time. Sometimes it'll show like I am and then, okay, so I see some people jumping on, so I can't see it yet, but hopefully it'll pop up for me in a minute so I can get any comments. Hold on just a second here. Well, I'm still not able to see it, but I know I have a few people on, so I think, give me just a sec. Hopefully I'll be, oh, hey, Sylvia. So I am able to see some comments. Not sure why. Let me try one more time. Hold on just a sec here. There we go. All right, perfect. So thanks for joining me and being so patient here. I do have a little bit of a delay. Hey, Deborah. Hey, Dixie Belle. So Dixie Belle is on with us to help answer any questions. And again, I'm Stacy with New Creations by Stacy. I am an elite retailer here in Ardmore, Alabama at the Rustic Willow. And then I still have my location here in Madison as well. So before I get started working on this piece here and talking about this, in the description, I do have a full product list because I have a lot of colors going on that we're going to be using tonight. I also have a link to my Facebook page if you want to see more of my work or final pictures. And then also the affiliate link if you need to find your local retailer. If you click that link, it's on the top left-hand corner. You can put in your zip code, locate somebody near you. You can also purchase through my affiliate link as well if you're going to be purchasing online. And of course, if you guys have any questions, if I happen to miss them, I'll go back after the live and answer any questions there. Let's see. Oh, hey, Myra. Hopefully I pronounced that right, from Costa Rica. Hey, Debbie from South Carolina. All right, so I just want to tell you guys tonight, I don't have a 100% plan for this piece. I'm kind of going for an old finish with some blue undertones. So I've got it turned this way first, just so you can kind of see where I'm going. This bottom section, this was kind of the first part I did. And I'm going to add some more drop cloth into that. And I'm also going to go ahead and bring some of this pine cone at the top end. But you can kind of see what kind of finish we're going for. I'm adding texture to it as well, so we'll be doing that tonight. I'm just looking to see who we have on. Oh, hey, Monica from Australia. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. This thing is massive. I'm going to go ahead and turn it around because this is actually our first coat that I've got done on the bottom. And I'm going to move it to the other side so I can show you guys how to get that first coat, and then we'll pull it back to the front. And I will, once I pull it back around to the front, we'll go ahead and do the second coat so you can see how that comes out. So I just want to make sure that you can see everything on the side here. So just to give you guys a little idea of what's going on. Oh, hey, Thelma, she's here in Alabama. So just to give you guys an idea of what's going on. When I got this piece, somebody had painted part of it, only part, and I don't even know what kind of paint it was. I don't think it was chalk paint. It wasn't latex either. But it was on here fairly well, but I did go ahead. It was done kind of poorly, lots of huge drips and not the places that I wanted them, not where I wanted texture. So I went ahead and sanded kind of all of this down, made sure it was good and secure because my paint is only going to stick as well as any other paint that someone else has painted on here. So once I went ahead and sanded that down, I cleaned this. Well, actually, I cleaned it first with white Lightening, and that's a TSP-based solution. It'll get all the grease, grime. If you have a really glossy piece, it will degloss it as well. So that's always going to be the first step. Once I did that, I went ahead and rinsed it off with water because you want to get all that TSP residue off. That can cause your paint not to stick as well if you have any of that left over. So rinse it really well with water. Actually cleaned it twice. It was really kind of, it had been sitting for a while. Hey, Leanne. Oh, wow, from Australia too. It's just, yeah, good morning for you guys. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're just going to do this bottom part here. And for the bottom part, I did only use 2 colors. And I'm creating texture with this because I want this to have a kind of a chippy feel to it once I'm finally finished, very aged, like it's been painted, you know, several different colors, but at different times. So I started off with Vintage Duck Egg, which is, well, you'll see once I pour it out. These FIFO bottles are kind of cloudy, so you can't see the true color. Oh, hey, Pam. She's here local as well. I'm so glad you guys are on tonight. And then we're also going to be using Coffee Bean, which is a really rich, dark brown color. And we're going to be using some Sea Spray in the Vintage Duck Egg. And this is just to add, it's going to thicken up your paint and add some texture. We're going to mix that up tonight too. So we'll go ahead and get started there. Also tonight, just to give you an idea, once we do the second coat, we're going to be using some pine cone. And then I've also got some pine cone that I mixed with the bronze patina paint, which I thought I had that jar out, but maybe I don't. I've already got that mixed up here, so I'll show it to you guys. It gives it, the pine cone, a little bit of a metallic look, a little more dark and cloudy. So that's what we're going to be using there. And then also, I've already mixed up some Vintage Duck Egg. You can see, because when you add Sea Spray, I prefer to use it right away. I could revive the last little bit of this, and it will revive once I mix up a new little batch here. Oh, by the way, I did grab the bronze patina. It was in my lap. Not uncommon, but anyway, it's like when you're talking on your phone and you are looking for it at the same time. Or maybe it's just me that does that. I don't know. Hey, Lisa, thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of, honestly, usually I have a plan as to how I want them to turn out. But in this case, I'm just kind of going with the flow and seeing what I get. So first, we're going to go ahead and mix up the Vintage Duck Egg. So the way that this works, it's a powder. This is Sea Spray. And you can see it's this little powder here, kind of. And you take 2 scoopfuls and with an 8 ounce of paint. And it comes out to the consistency of brownie batter. So if you are, it's going to be your first time using Sea Spray, I would definitely suggest following the directions on the bag so you can get a feel for it. I am not going to do that, but I use Sea Spray regularly and I know what I want. I want this to be very thick. So myself, I'm going to mix this up a little thicker than the brownie batter. So if you have jars that you keep your paint in, you just want to stir them, shake them up well. And so I'm just shaking this up and I'm going to fill up my little cup. And I think this is like a 2 ounce cup or something like that. But I'm just filling it up with my Vintage Duck Egg, beautiful color. And then I'm making this pretty full. I am going to start off with about this much Sea Spray in here, or whatever I can fit. Yeah, I can fit that. All right, and once you have it all together, I'm just going to start stirring it up. And I could have done it in a larger container, but like I said, I like to mix up what I need, because as this sits, even if you have it in a really, and I'm just spilling it everywhere, but even if you have it in a really good container, airtight, it will still thicken up more. And you can revive it by adding some water, or you can add more paint to it. But I kind of like to mix it up as I go. And I probably shouldn't have filled this so full. But we're just getting it stirred up here. Hold it up so you can see. Kind of making a mess is really what I'm doing. And I want mine thick. Maybe not this thick, but yeah. I did not want it this thick, but that's okay. We're going to add some more paint. I don't have a lot of room, so I may end up having to switch my container out. Well, you see what I said about following directions. I don't quite want it this chunky, so I tell you what I'm going to actually do. I'm going to use my paper plate, and I've got a spoon over here. I'm going to take some of this out, and then I'm going to add a little bit more paint here. So maybe that's only a 1 ounce container. Based on how this is mixing up, I'm betting that's just a 1 ounce container, which means I would have needed about double the paint for the amount of sea spray that I put in it for the thickness that I want. So I'm just stirring it here. I want it a little bit chunky. Perfect. You want to make sure you stir it really well just so you don't have any little like clumps of powder stuck in there. You want it completely and thoroughly mixed up. Now this is thicker than what you would normally get whenever you follow the directions, I just want to say. But like I said, I want this relatively thick. In some cases, it's going to kind of blend in. The way I'm painting it, it's going to kind of blend in with my coffee bean. All right, perfect. So this is kind of the consistency I've got here. This is what I want with the sea spray. Could use... Yes, definitely. You can use the sea spray for a raised stencil. You can also tint, you can use the Dixie mud, but you can also tint the white Dixie mud for texture as well. So there's several different options. And I do, usually I use the sea spray for my raised stencils, but I have used the Dixie mud. Sorry, I've got one little last clump in here that I want to get rid of. There we go. So I've got this nice and thick. All right, and then we're going to go ahead. I'm going to take some coffee bean here, squirt it out. I'm not going to be using any water with this. So I'm going to be using just kind of a larger art brush, and that's going to be for my coffee bean. And then I'm going to be using... you know what? My paintbrushes are over there, but that's okay. I've got some over here too. Let's go with the oval medium Dixie Belle synthetic brush, and that's going to be for my sea spray part. If you want a lot of texture, you can also use a premium chip brush, and this would work great as well. I just like my synthetic brushes. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit of coffee bean here on my art brush, and I'm lining out my crevices. So like you could use wax later on to do this, but I like to paint a lot of my shading in. I like to go back with the wax, and I will go over this with, I haven't decided yet if I want to, and I might use a combo of the black and the brown wax, because with this texture going on here, that wax has something to really grab onto. But I'm just kind of throwing this on in places that I want to have this dark shading in the end, when this is all done. And you guys saw this bottom front section here. This is what, this is gonna look kind of like that once I finish it. And I'm not really smoothing out my paint or anything like that. Again, I want texture, but not only that, when I come back and I start with the vintage duck egg, it's going to kind of blend in, and it's going to move this paint around. I am dabbing it in some places because that's just going to give me a little bit more texture. And I want all different kinds of texture. I've kind of played with the idea of using like some saran wrap balled up to kind of make that chippy look. And I may do that on the final coat. I haven't quite decided yet. Just looking to see if oh, hey, Julie. Julie's local too. I'm so excited to see all you guys on tonight. All right. So just a little bit more of the coffee bean, because you would naturally have a shadow coming down up here. So I'm just adding that in. I'm going to throw a little bit of this, lots of different directions. And I'm just throwing it in because, like I said, in some places, this texture, it's going to kind of blend in. And as I layer this on, this will look fantastic. That's what's going to give it that authentic look. And you probably can't see, but I have a lot of brush strokes under here. A lot of this stuff is hard to see on the camera. So now I am going to dip my... You know what? I think I still want to stir just a tad bit more paint into here. But I'm not actually going to stir it in. Just going to put it on there and dump my brush in. So you can see how pasty this is compared to like the regular chalk paint consistency. You know, it's really pasty. And I'm going to go around here. I'm going to brush it on in some sections. I'm going to dab it a little bit here and there. Let it mix in with some of this. The idea is that I'm not trying to create a nice paint finish. I want to keep it out of the cracks, though. I am trying to do that as much as possible. I want to get a little bit in. You want it to kind of look authentic. But I can kind of hit that by going crossways to get that highlight and that center part. And this is going to have a lot more layers. But you know, this is it's a really easy finish. Because the idea is you don't want it to be great. Kind of dabbing it in here and there. You want it to be really random, which a lot of times I have a problem with being random. So another thing is when you're using this sea spray, I've got some chunky stuff over here. That's great because you can also sand down. Like once this dries and you put this next coat on, you can actually sand it down and it'll give it that really nice chippy kind of look, because in spots where it's really stippled on like I'm doing right now, in those spots where it's really stippled on, it will, when you sand it down, those little peaks are going to come off of like the vintage duck egg, so it'll show through to this. I'm also blending a little bit of this in just to give it a little extra shading, a little extra texture here and there. And this is all about the layers. And that's another reason I'm going in so many different directions. I want lots of textures, all of that good stuff. And really I'm coming up with several different colors here because of the way I'm doing this. And you see, you can see how pasty this paint is. But you're creating a lot of different colors by this slight bend, by this stippling. It's kind of blending these two together. You're getting lots of different shades in here. So I'm going back through and I'm just adding a little bit of extra texture in certain areas. So it kind of all isn't the same. I'm really thick down here, so I just kind of want to dab that in. And that's it. I mean, it's not really, we're not trying to make this look good. I'm just trying to get a lot of color and a lot of texture and layers that I have in here. So that's it for this side. It does take a little bit longer to dry because of the sea spray and how thick it is. Earlier, because I've done this whole thing earlier today, I just wasn't quite sure which direction I wanted to go with it. Earlier when I did put a fan on it, so I was able to come back and work with it, though, within an hour. Oh, thanks, Marianne. So really easy to do, and this is pretty much a lot of the process. You know, on all these lives lately, I've been forgetting to bring my bags out. So I'm just going to spray my brushes down really well here because we're kind of done with this. I am going to go ahead, and like I said, even though I have a lot left to do on this piece, and I will let this sit, I will be able to revive this. I can add water to thin it out, which is normally what I do, because like I said, even when it's in an airtight container, it does continue to harden when you have this sea spray in it. So I'm just going to dump the rest in here. I don't want to waste it. And we're done with this part, so we are going to move on over here. Now, one thing I did do, which I really didn't have to do, but I was kind of, in my mind, I was going in a different direction. I did, once this dried, I put a coat of gator hide over it. And the reason being is I did a blend over this. And with the water, I didn't want to reactivate this paint and have this blend into that drop cloth color that I was using. Oh, hey, Gina from Georgia. So I'm going to go ahead and spin this back around so that we can do the second coat on the front. I just need to be careful it doesn't come off my rollers and we have a catastrophe. So here we go. Maybe you guys so you can see the whole thing here. All right, perfect. So for this down here, I did not use any texture on this second coat. But this is where I brought in a lot of the extra colors. Yep, we definitely have time to get the second coat on. So my bottom, oh, actually this is the pine cone mixed with sea spray because I want the top to be lighter and I don't want the blue undertone past about here. So I actually just reversed the process and I was using pine cone like I was using the vintage duck egg. So that's actually what I had in here. Oh, ironically, this is the mud container too. So the other way you can create texture. One thing, if you do decide to create texture, this is a little off topic. If you decide to create texture with the Dixie mud, and let's say you use the white Dixie mud, tint it. And the reason being is you create a raised stencil with white Dixie mud, and then you paint a color over it. If even one little chip of that color gets knocked off, then it's white underneath. So it's really good to tint it with whatever you're creating your texture with. All right, so I am going to bring in, so this is pine cone and bronze metallic paint because I wanted the pine cone to have a tint of metallic to it. So we're going to be using this on the second coat. You can kind of see what that looks like. So that's paint. When you put paint in any of your metallics, it tones down the metallic in it. In addition, of course, to changing the color. Just making sure that I'm not missing any questions here. And so then we have the pine cone, which we talked about. I didn't put pine cone on the bottom over here, but I really liked how I had the top on the side, so I want to add that a little bit of pine cone down here just to kind of bring it together. And then we have drop cloth, which is a nice kind of antique white color. And I'll show it to you once I get it down here. And I also am going to do some blending, of course, with the vintage duck egg. So this is what the drop cloth looks like here. You can see it's really my Christmas plates. You can see it's just a really nice off-white color. And then we're gonna do some blending with some vintage duck egg. And like I said, I added water to this part. It's not a 100% true blend. There's a lot of different things I'll be doing here. Some dry brushing as well. Let me grab my other brushes. And I want some paper towels. Shop towels are really better, but you want to wipe off my brushes as I'm going. Okay, so for this part, I want to keep the vintage duck egg. I do want to lighten it up a little bit, and I'll probably come in with a little coffee bean, but not nearly as much as I was using before. So I'm going to start off, my brushes are kind of wet because I was using them earlier, and this blend is kind of a little bit drier. And I think I'm going to start right up here at the top, and we're going to work our way down. Oh, here's my water bottle. My Mr. bottle, that's what I was looking for. So, I don't want to wet it down too much, but we're going to go ahead and see, you can tell the difference, like how pasty it is with the sea spray and it versus, you know, just with the regular paint. So I'm not per se trying to create texture with this layer, but I do want a little bit. So this isn't going to be a smooth paint job. I don't want to, I'm not pushing my paint in. I'm kind of letting it sit up here. And I'm kind of still laying out my color. Like I said, I'm not 100. I want to make sure you guys can see. Let me bring you over so you're angled a little bit more. Hopefully I'm not making anyone motion sickness, but I'm going the wrong direction. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that better angle. Just let me know, please, with the comments if I happen to be to where you're not able to see me painting. Sometimes when I don't know where I'm going, I tend to get more in front of my piece so I can really see it. So the reason I'm laying the color out so light like this too is I don't want my paint to sink into these crevices. Hopefully you can kind of see that online a little, or on the camera a little bit. I'm still going in different directions. I'm looking for a dry brush look in some areas as well. I'm going to use my round large. Come in with some vintage duck egg off the side. I don't want too much vintage duck egg. I want this to be pretty light. And I'll probably be quiet here because, again, I really was not 100% sure where I wanted to go with this, and I'm still really not. This is more of a creative painting where it just is going to take me where it's going. So I'm using the same brush, and it's doing a little bit of blending here on its own. I'm also going to come in here, I think, with a little bit of the coffee bean. And when it blends with this vintage duck egg, it makes a really nice kind of gray color. So now I'm going to start dabbing on because I want to create some places where it looks like it's a little bit chippy, and that kind of lends to that. So I'm going to come back. So with the vintage duck egg, I'm not really putting right now when I'm dabbing, not really putting paint on my brush. I'm kind of putting a slight bit of paint and then I'm dabbing it off on another part of the plate. So it's very light because I don't want to overtake. I just want it in some areas. I don't want to overtake this drop cloth with it. Just a few places here and there. Coming back to kind of mix that in a little bit with the drop cloth. All right, so now with this, it is more of an artistic process, and you don't really have to, you don't have to go really fast or do a whole lot of coats. Hopefully this will be my last coat now that I have a better idea of where I'm going. So what I just did right now was I took that pine cone and metallic mixture that I told you guys about, and I'm using a premium chip brush. I just dabbed it in, I wiped it off a little bit on my paper towel here, and I'm very lightly kind of brushing it on the edges. My other paint is still wet, so in some places it's blending in and to create another really just nice color, and in other places it is, and I hope you guys can see this, sometimes these details are lost on camera, but what it's doing is all that texture that I put on earlier, when I'm dragging my brush across, it's leaving little spots. It's catching on there and it's leaving little highlight spots on it. So I'm getting some of that metallic look on the edges, kind of it's very aged out. And I think, let's see here, I'm going to go ahead and bring my pine cone out a little bit. And I want to use, I think, I don't want a lot of pine cone on here. I think I'm going to go with an artist brush. And I'm just going to kind of, actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a baby wipe. This is another technique that you can use to kind of create this. So you can put I wish I wouldn't have put it there, but anyway, you can put a little bit on. You can take a baby wipe and kind of dab it so it kind of muddies it up and it creates a nice little, and this is what I was talking about, saran wrap. You can kind of ball it up. You can go across your piece and you can create some really nice looks as well with that. So I don't see any questions yet. Oh, thanks, Julie. I'm trying to watch. Like I said, if I miss anything, I will definitely come back here. I want to get this drawer done. But like I said, this is a process here. It's not just, one way to do it. You're just looking at your piece and kind of seeing like what it needs where and kind of trying to just bring that together. So this side I let dry out, but that's okay because it's not like a blend, like a true soft, nice blend. I want all of these different layers like this. Same thing, this time I did the same thing. I kind of wiped the vintage duck egg back a little bit. And now I'm just gonna come in and dab it on. And even if I go back and add other layers, this second layer is my most detailed layer where I'm adding most of what I want on here. So when you hear me hitting like that, again, I'm just kind of lightly going. I'm going to dry brush this. I need some streaks in that vintage duck egg so it doesn't look so smooth. So now almost all my drop cloth is off. I'm just brushing it across. And I think for the base, that's it. I just want to go in. I want to start adding the metallics and the pine cone kind of on here. So little bit of pine cone. Let me do this so you can see on the camera. So you see the pine cone. I'm just going to kind of, sorry, this is not pine cone. This is my mix, I think. I'm just going to start, it's not my mix, it is pine cone, but that's okay. Because the more you mix this up, no worries, same thing. This is my bronze with the pine cone mix. And that's a little bit dark. That's okay. I'm going to go across here, kind of lightly brushing that out some. Let's do the edges. I think these a little bit darker. So I can actually shade with this. I've got a little too much on here. I'm going to wipe it back a lot because I want to do some dabbing. I want to kind of mix it in with this dabbing. It kind of gives you a shaded effect. Put some in here, kind of add that extra color. Now some of this is a little bit much up here, so I want to kind of wipe and dab it back. Mix it in, just shade it is what I'm doing. There we go. And then I can take where this is on, I can actually put directly on my baby wipe a little bit of this mix, so it's dark here, and I can also dab that in. Let me see where I want to go with this. I like to kind of keep this around the corners because that's where you would normally see those dark spots. And again, I'm just putting it on my baby wipe. I'm grunging it up. You can do this, like, the more I do this, and then if I come back, say, with some wax and some Dixie dirt would be fabulous on here. The more I come back with that and do this, the more layers it's going to add, and the better it's going to look. The more dimension it's going to add to it. So we're just going to come through. I'm about done with this drawer here. Sometimes it's good to stop, let it dry, and then kind of see what it needs. So I'm just lightly going across the whole thing. I'm just kind of laying my brush on the side and run it across. It's a little bit wet still, so I'm starting to blend more than I want to, and I think I like this the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at this step, and we're just going to go ahead and move on. Now, the more I come down, the darker I want it to be, the less drop cloth I want on it. So let's go ahead and we'll hit this second drawer. And so, let's see here. So, when I first put the drop cloth on, I'm putting it on relatively thick. But it is going, I'm not rubbing it in. I'm almost doing it like I would do a dry brush. I'm not trying to smooth it out. I want a little bit more than that, though. I want it to kind of skip, and that's what's happening. It's kind of going all over those texture spots, and that's why I did that texture. I'm going to bring in some vintage duck egg down over here, because on this part I want more of that vintage duck egg. But I don't want it to be a full blend. And I want to leave those crevices dark. So I want to make sure I'm kind of staying away from those. Or if I'm going up and down. Because then if I go this way, it's going to drag right through. And so all of this that I did with that shading with my paint will be covered. So that's why I'm going up and down when I'm going over these. And I want the different texture in here. So this is perfect. So I want to get a little bit of duck egg in here some. Let's blend a little bit more of the drop cloth in. A little heavier here, a little more highlighted. And the key to this, like I said, is just kind of trying to be a little bit random. And a lot of this just requires you to kind of sit back and look too to see what you have going on. And And actually, I cannot believe that I am almost out of time. I feel like I just got started. Oh, thanks, Marianne. So I actually was hoping to get to a third step on the other side over here, but like I said, I only have about 5 more minutes. So let's try to do this drawer a little bit. I want to shade this out with more of the bronzish pine cone look along the bottom here. So let me start there. I don't know that I'll get this done, but... And the reason, when you saw that second coat on the other side, I didn't have all of this extra pine cone and everything in it. So actually I need to let this dry out a little bit because I'm doing more blending instead of catching the tops of that. So actually, before I go any further here, I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'll come back in with my dry brush and highlight. So we're just going to hit this really quick before I have to go. And when you're doing these, again, I don't want to hit everything. So I'm being careful. I'm going side to side because I want to leave those lower areas shaded. But on these raised areas, we will want some of this drop cloth on there, so I might as well go ahead and dry brush some in. This is all about the layers. And it's okay that I'm going over some of these sections that I already did. That's just going to add to it as well. We're going to bring in a little bit... I'm going to do a little bit of this in here. This is the coffee bean. I'm going to drag it down some. And you see, I'm just mixing my brushes up. This is actually the bronze brush. And I'm doing this up here because you would have more shading coming down from the top. Then we'll go ahead and put a little bit more of the drop cloth in, and this time I'm going to dab it. And let's bring some vintage duck egg in. Sorry, I'm trying to hurry here, so it's just all about layering it. And I'm just doing a nice dry brush. And you can use one of these techniques, all of these techniques. Again, I'm just painting here. Today was one of those days where I didn't have a set idea of where I was going. I just kind of wanted to, I put too much. I'm going to have to let this sit a minute. I put too much drop cloth, more drop cloth than I want on this side. So I'm actually going to come in here and wipe some of this back. And that's another thing, because I wasn't sure if I was going to wet distress or not on this. So another thing that I did, that's one of the other reasons I put the gator hide in between that first coat and this last coat. So I'm going to come in, I'll end up darkening this up and doing some different stuff there. But my time is actually up, you guys. That went so fast for me. I hope you enjoyed it, though. I hope you like it, learned something, a new technique maybe. Again, I will go back and check the comments. I'm sure I feel like I missed some. But thank you for hanging out tonight. And just to repeat everything, you can find your local retailer through the affiliate link. You can purchase through the affiliate link as well. And then also just like and follow me on Facebook. If you know anybody who could use this video, please share it as well. And thank you so much, you guys. Oh, is coffee bean bronze of such in the actual wood? I can get more layering on it, so I can add more depth. If I only distress it down to the wood, which I thought about in the end, I may distress it down to the wood, but I don't think I'm going to. But when you constantly do these layers, it just gives it a lot more depth, a lot more look like it's been on here for a long time and just painted several times instead of, you know, just all at once. But that's just my thoughts too, a complete opinion. You know, it just depends. But I don't think I saw any more questions, but thank you so much, guys. Take care. Have a good night.